Heroes celebrate. They have done it.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day, and it's all about the backlash and the fallout from the Paul Mitchell departure. It's interesting to see how the fan base has reacted to this. It's kind of 50-50 split down the middle, really. A lot of the fan base are saying, I don't care. The bloke did nothing in less than a year, you know, didn't buy any players, didn't really do much apart from getting ridiculous amounts of money for Lloyd Kelly. And I will give him his props for that, to be fair, because that's like selling somebody a knackered motor for 40 grand. But outside of that, he didn't really do a great deal. And I'm hearing lots of stories about the reason why Paul Mitchell did move on, apparently. And I said this in my video I did the other day. He was arrogant, he was brash. And you could see that, you know, he had that kind of aura about him. You know, my day job, I work with a lot of people who dance that fine line between confidence and arrogance. And I think Paul Mitchell definitely leapt across that line. And listen, he may feel he's got the cojones and the stroke to do that because of what he's done previously in his other clubs like Spurs, Southampton, Monaco, Leipzig. You know, and he might think he's got pedigree to do that. But one thing is for damn sure, I don't think that this kind of guy and Eddie Howe would work together. I mean, I'm not sure Ashworth and Eddie Howe work together either. And that tells you, like I said in the last video, that Eddie Howe wants to have more involvement in this. Now, whether it's him directly or indirectly, he wants more involvement in this situation. And people will cry about that and say, well, it's not Monday football, Chris, can't do that. But as I said in the previous video, if you've won a cup, first domestic cup in 70 years, and you've got us to the Champions League twice in 3 years, and we were about to get relegated when you come in, I think you've got enough stroke to swing it around, to be fair. And that's what Eddie Howe is doing. But this video is about what's next for Newcastle. There's loads of stories going on about what's next. Loads of journalists are starting to pop up with a little bit of nuggets here and there. And I personally think what I think is going to happen next is I think that it'll be promotions within the takeover the transfer committee. Now, a lot of people are shitting themselves about what this means for Newcastle United's transfer activity in a really busy window. And I kind of get that. I kind of understand that because we haven't bought anybody for 3 windows. Now, whether that's solely down to PSR and FFP or a little bit of Mitchell's issues that he had behind the scenes, where how maybe he wanted to sign players or Howe didn't want to sign, or maybe Howe wanted to sign players that Mitchell didn't want to sign, and that's why the stalemate ended up with nobody coming in the door. We'll never know, really. We might know someday. Somebody might have a few pints and let it slip. You just never know. But going back to the situation, I think what's most likely to happen, and this is what seems to be coming out in the kind of murmurs, is Steve Nixon will possibly get a leg up alongside, I think it's Andy Howe, Eddie Howe's nephew, who are involved in the transfer committee, and I think they'll take point on the transfers. Now, I would be stunned because I think they're part of the committee anyway. Now, Paul Mitchell obviously was higher than they were in the hierarchy, but they would have been involved in player, you know, scouting, identifying targets, discussing it with their people. So there's no way Newcastle are going to go back to the starting block here. They'll already be halfway down the line talking to players and players' agents. I mean, you know, Liam Delap's people were at Newcastle this week, if you believe the stories, to discuss a potential move to Newcastle. And apparently, according to the likes of Craig Hope, that Newcastle have been prepared for Mitchell's exit for months now. So this is something that's obviously been discussed. Now, obviously, they're trying to find the most cohesive way to do this, to not damage the football club, which is maybe what happened under the Ashworth saga when he buggered off and left previously. So I think Newcastle are trying to do this the right way. And listen, I'll give fair play to Mitchell. If he hasn't stomped off in a huff and he's kind of worked an extended notice period, I'm sure he's been financially compensated for that, by the way, but he's probably worked maybe a longer notice period to maybe help facilitate some transfers. And if he's been involved in the transfers, you know, then he'll get a little bit of credit. But so far, his legacy is not signing a first-team player, apart from Will Asula, who's not really a first-team player, and getting all right money for Almiron. But in my opinion, Almiron should have been sold ages ago, and that's the previous regime that I'll take aim at on that one. And getting a ridiculous fee for Lloyd Kelly, which I was astounded at still. So that's his legacy at the club. But going back to this window, I think Nixon and Andy Howe, Eddie Howe being involved behind the scenes, I think it'll give us that continuity. Now, you know, I was watching some content the other day, and a lot of people are nervous and concerned, and I get that. But this kind of importance on the sporting director and technical directors of football clubs is very much a new age football thing. You know, a lot of us don't really know everything that they do or don't do on a daily basis. We just kind of go off what we're told and what we think. about these people in their roles. And listen, I'm sure they're very important people in football clubs because they get paid a lot of money and they get put into, to do infrastructure. But whether we like this or not, our manager is a little bit of a throwback. He may be a modern, innovative coach in terms of what he does in the grass and his fitness regimes and all that stuff. But I think deep down at his principle, he wants to be, Ferguson or a Wenger, and you can dislike that all you want, but it's working for the guy. He's won as a trophy. He's got his Champions League, and if someone said to you right now, who would you rather have at the football club right now, Eddie Howe or a sporting director with a brilliant CV? I know who I'd choose. I'd choose Eddie Howe all day long and twice on Sunday. So that's what I think is going to happen potentially. We don't know. It's just a speculation. It's just been running through my mind. I've been looking through a few things and I thought I'd just jump on and do a quick video about it. I'm not concerned about what this does for the transfer plans. I think Newcastle are going steam ahead with the plans. I've seen some people already on social media. It's never a good barometer, but they're all saying, we won't sign Juan Garcia now because that's a Mitchell player. You don't know it's a Mitchell player. Steve Nixon was responsible for scouting and signing Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Sven Botman, right? So it's not all about signing English players like some of this bollocks I'm seeing getting thrown out there by Eddie Howe. It's not all about signing English players. Yes, James Trafford might be a long-term goalkeeper target, and maybe Howe prefers Trafford over Garcia, but we just don't know. They might have watched both of those keepers, and it might be a Rizzler paper's width between the two as to who he wants to sign, and it might be what's the better deal for the football club. There's a sell-on fee to Man City from the Trafford deal. His great performance in the Championship has maybe added a few more million to the coffers that they don't want to pay, but I'm willing to wait and see what happens. We've got this kind of first transfer window opening in June, which Mitchell is still here for, by the way. So that tells me whatever deals they've been working on to try and get done before that first window opens and closes, I think that they'll be done with cohesiveness in the football club, and there's one towards the end of June. I'm sure that Mitchell's meant to be here till the end of that as well, so he's not leaving immediately. Whatever you think about him, whatever Eddie Howe thinks about him, whatever the club think about him, he's not leaving straight away. So that tells me whatever deals have been worked upon will be facilitated and finalised with the sporting director still in position. But I think with a huge influence from Eddie Howe and his kind of people within the transfer committee to get the deals done. And listen, if we go and get 3-4 top quality players who are Premier League proven, ready to go, ready to take us to the next level, can play Champions League, then we'll all be happy. And Paul Mitchell's memory will disappear like Marty McFly in the fucking photograph. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think. What do you think is going to happen next? Do you think the speculation is right? Do you think Nixon will get a leg up? And does he deserve a leg up? Or do you think Newcastle will go for this new technical director? Maybe go a different route? And have you got a problem with Eddie Howe wanting more control? Or do you think he's justified in wanting that control? I'm really curious to hear from everybody. A few comments in the last video. Most people, I think, in favour, saying whatever Howe wants, Howe should get. Some people pulling it, some people questioning it. I think this is very much the new age versus the old age of football. I think Eddie's innovative as a coach on the training ground and everything he does there. But I think in his principles, he's very traditionalist. He wants to have control of a football club. And that's how he came through at Bournemouth. He was Mr. Bournemouth. And that video has been doing the rounds again about how well he scouted and signed players. I know some people criticise some of the signings at Bournemouth, but, you can't argue with what Eddie did at Bournemouth and you can't argue with what he's done here. So as far as I'm concerned, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let Eddie Howe cook, as they say, as the young kids would say. Anyway, I'm way too old to say that kind of shit, but I'm saying it anyway, fuck it. But let us know in the comments below what you think. Smash a like and subscribe. Keep it evermore. We'll be trying to bring you some more videos over the summer. Loads of transfer links to go through. Hopefully a couple of signings to announce soon. And then whatever Newcastle do next in this transfer committee stroke sporting director replacement, we'll jump on and give you an opinion video on that. Have a belter day. See you later. Take it easy.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.